Hello, I'm Aria Montgomery, and I'm 28 years old. If you enjoyed this story of my journey to independence, please don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. Your support means everything to me as I share these difficult but important experiences. The notification of my year-end bonus hitting my account had barely appeared on my phone when my parents were already blocking my apartment door, shoving a detailed expense report into my hands. Pre-K snack fees, data overage charges from my teenage years, yarn costs, and labor fees for hand-knitted sweaters. Every item calculated down to the penny, totaling $186,542.90. When I laughed and refused their demands, they immediately produced what they called a family financial severance and relationship termination agreement. The AI judge in the virtual courtroom accessed memory data while viewers cast real-time votes on the verdict through live comments. My mother wept as she explained that my older brother Marcus and his family desperately needed money for their new baby, while my father emphasized that his investment failures required immediate recovery. Comments flooded the screen with messages like, "Birth debt is nothing compared to raising debt," and "Support cutting ties and pay up immediately." The moment I was about to sign, I suddenly spoke up with my own demand. I require a calculation of their unfulfilled parenting commitments to me. Tutoring fees that became gambling money, college tuition that turned into jewelry purchases, birthday checks that became lottery tickets. After the I recalculated everything. The courtroom fell into dead silence. The live signal from the AI virtual courtroom had just connected when the comment feed exploded into chaos. Dense white text nearly covered the entire holographic projection interface. "Here we go. The ultimate family drama begins. I heard this daughter won't take care of her parents. What a terrible person. Front row for the drama, waiting for this ungrateful daughter to get what she deserves." There I stood, alone at the cold defendant's podium. Across from me sat 6 intimidating figures in black. My father, Charles Montgomery, and my mother, Diane Fletcher Montgomery. My older brother Marcus and his wife Veronica Stone Montgomery. My second brother Julian and his wife Celeste Rivers Montgomery. They stared at me like a pack of hungry wolves eyeing a piece of meat they were about to devour. This was the supposedly absolutely fair AI justice virtual courtroom. There was no physical judge, only a cold, emotionless synthesized voice echoing from the dome above. Case number 7741, court is now in session. Plaintiff parties, Charles Montgomery, Diane Fletcher Montgomery, Marcus Montgomery, Veronica Stone Montgomery, Julian Montgomery, Celeste Rivers Montgomery. Defendant, Aria Montgomery. Case summary, pursuit of child support costs and shared family debt. The AI judge's voice paused momentarily as if processing data. Plaintiff parties are seeking a total payment of $186,542.90 from defendant Aria Montgomery. This figure exploded in my mind like a bomb. Over $186,000. The sound of my year-end bonus notification seemed to still echo in my ears. That money I had earned through countless sleepless nights and desperate hard work amounted to $32,000. The text message had barely arrived when my parents appeared at my front door. Not with greetings or concern, but with a printed document. It was densely packed with information, clearly organized. Aria Montgomery Growth Cost Calculation and Family Investment Itemization. Starting from when I was 3 years old in pre-kindergarten. Pre-K snack fees, $40 per month for 3 years, totaling $1,440. Elementary school supplementary tutoring materials, $200 annually for 6 years, totaling $1,200. Middle school adolescent period, secretly using extra gigabytes of data and additional internet usage, calculated at $20 monthly for 3 years, totaling $720. High school tuition and living expenses were considered investments that must be calculated. College tuition was labeled as a primary investment item, principal plus interest included. The most ridiculous item was a small line at the bottom. Mother Diane Fletcher Montgomery hand-knitted sweater yarn costs and labor fees, calculated per item, totaling $1,200. Everything was itemized and calculated precisely to the penny. The grand total, $186,542.90. I actually laughed when I saw it. I was laughing out of pure anger. I handed that paper back to them. Dad, Mum, what does this mean? My mother, Diane, let her eyelids droop as she began wiping tears that didn't actually exist. Oh, Aria, please don't blame Mom and Dad for being calculating, raising you to this point, paying for your education. It hasn't been easy. You've made something of yourself now, established yourself in the big city, receiving such a large year-end bonus. My father, Charles, stood beside her with a stern expression, adding his support in a grave voice. Supporting children to secure care in old age is natural law. We're not asking for much. Just settle the child-rearing costs you owe, and after that, we can each live our own lives. My heart sank bit by bit. So this was their plan all along. Was it because of that $32,000 year-end bonus that had just hit my account? Or was it because I had recently refused my mother's request to hand over my bank card for her safekeeping? Perhaps it was because my second brother Julian had lost money in the stock market again and desperately needed to fill that hole. I didn't take that paper. Dad, Mum, I can't give you this money. The law does require children to have obligations to support their parents, but not calculated this way. I've never stopped sending monthly living expenses to the family. Diane's crying stopped abruptly. Charles's face instantly turned iron grey. He suddenly pulled another paper from his jacket and slammed it on the entrance table in front of me. At the top of the paper, in bold black letters, were the words, Family Financial Severance and Relationship Termination Agreement. Sign it. Charles's voice carried undeniable severity. Either pay the money or sever the relationship, you choose. I looked at that thin piece of paper, feeling all the blood in my body flowing backward. Severing the relationship. Just because I wouldn't agree to this absurd list. Just because I couldn't comply with their unreasonable demands. Just then, all of our phones simultaneously chimed with notifications. Ding, high-intensity family dispute detected, meeting AI Justice Court Intervention Standards. Case automatically accepted, virtual courtroom will be forcibly activated in 30 seconds. The memory was interrupted by the AI judge's cold voice. Defendant Aria Montgomery, do you acknowledge the plaintiff party's claim for $186,542.90? I lifted my head, my gaze sweeping across those 6 faces opposite me, each displaying greed and self-righteousness. I do not acknowledge it. The comments exploded instantly. Wow, direct denial, so bold. Looks like there's more to this story. Typical. She's probably trying to dodge payment. I've seen this type of unfilial daughter before. My mother, Diane, was the first to jump out. She faced the virtual camera floating in the air, crying with tears streaming down her face. Your Honor, you must help us seek justice. We 2 old folks worked ourselves to the bone raising her, providing her food, clothing, and college education. She's ungrateful. As soon as she graduated, she stayed in the big city, spread her wings, and forgot about us completely. She just watches us, her elderly parents, struggle without any care, My husband and I are old now, can't work anymore, and her two brothers don't have much ability either. Life is so hard. She just watches coldly, only giving us $300 a month. What can that possibly cover?" She cried with such anguish, as if she had suffered the greatest injustice. The comments began to lean heavily in one direction. "Only $300 a month? That's definitely too little. Poor old people raising such an ungrateful daughter. You can earn more than that doing any random job in the city, right? Being so stingy with her own parents." My father Charles immediately stood up, pointing his finger almost directly at my virtual projection face. "Ungrateful. If I had known you would turn out like this, I should have let child services take you away when you were born. Spending all that money on your education, it all went down the drain. Asking you to help out your two brothers a little, you make excuses. Now we're asking for some child support, and you dare refuse." His spittle nearly sprayed through the holographic projection onto my face. My older brother Marcus stepped forward, pulling out evidence he had prepared beforehand. An extremely exaggerated bill projection appeared. "Your Honor, please look. This is what my sister has consumed in terms of food, clothing, and expenses over the years. I roughly calculated it, and it's more than this amount. Also, when she was in college and looking for work, the money the family spent pulling strings and making connections for her must be included." He spoke with complete conviction. I looked at him, remembering how last year when he was buying a house and was short $30,000 for the down payment, he called me in the middle of the night, crying like a child. My heart softened, and I transferred all my savings from 2 years of frugal living to him. He said it was a loan. The IOU still hasn't materialized to this day. My second brother Julian and his wife Celeste immediately joined in. "Exactly, little sister, you have no conscience. Mom and Dad have been so good to you. Whatever good food we had, they saved for you. Is this how you repay Mom and Dad now? Has your heart been eaten by dogs?" Veronica, my shrewd sister-in-law, added sarcastically, "Oh well, now she's a white-collar worker in the city, looking down on us poor relatives. She's afraid we'll cling to her and drag her down. Your Honor, this kind of unfilial daughter must be severely punished. Make her spit out the blood money she owes her parents." 6 people. One statement after another. Weaving a suffocating net, trying to pin me firmly to the pillar of shame labeled unfilial. The comments were completely manipulated by their narrative. Holy crap, a family of bloodsuckers confirmed. This woman is absolutely terrible. Support the parents, pay up immediately, $186,000, not a penny less. Birth debt is nothing compared to raising debt. This calculation is perfectly reasonable. Support severing the relationship. Why keep such a daughter around for Thanksgiving? I watched them perform their act. Watched those uninformed comments flooding the screen crazily. That last bit of warmth I had been holding in my heart completely froze over. So this was how they had always seen me, never as family. I was an investment that, when the time came, had to be recovered with principal and interest. Now was the time they felt they should cash in. The AI judge's voice rang out again, completely unmoved. "Defendant, plaintiff parties have completed their statements and provided partial evidence. Do you have any objections or supplementary evidence to submit?" I took a deep breath, suppressing the choking sensation in my throat and the nausea churning in my stomach. I lifted my head and looked calmly toward the dome's light source representing the AI. "Yes, I request a bilateral calculation." The courtroom instantly quieted for a moment. Even the rapidly scrolling comments paused for half a second. Bilateral calculation? What does that mean? Is she going to settle accounts with her parents too? Are you kidding? Your parents raised you all these years. Can you really calculate that clearly? My parents and siblings-in-law were also stunned. They obviously hadn't expected me to pull this move. Diane shrieked. What do you mean? What accounts do you want to settle with us? Charles was even more furious. You're rebelling. You want to settle accounts with your old man. I ignored them and directly uploaded the files I had prepared long ago to the court evidence database. Since we're calculating child rearing costs, fine. But please have the court simultaneously calculate the commitments made by the plaintiff parties, that is, my parents and brothers, during my upbringing that were promised but never fulfilled, as well as the financial support I've provided to them and my two brothers' families since I started working. My voice was steady, carrying a kind of reckless calm born of desperation. First, when I was in middle school, the school organized a math competition training class with an $800 fee. My father Charles personally promised that if I scored in the top 10, he would enroll me. I scored 5th. That money later became his gambling funds at River Casino. Second, when I graduated high school and received my state university acceptance letter, my mother Diane promised to buy me a new laptop computer for studying. In the end, she used that money to buy herself a diamond necklace. Throughout my 4 years of college, I used a computer I found on Craigslist that would crash randomly at any moment. Third, on my first year working, during Thanksgiving, I gave my mother a $1,200 birthday check. She immediately gave it to my second brother Julian to buy lottery tickets. The result was a total loss. I recounted each incident, one by one, calmly. With each story, I uploaded corresponding evidence. Some were blurry text message screenshots. Some were incomplete audio recordings. Some were isolated bank transfer records. These things had originally just been memory fragments I kept on my phone, occasionally looking at them to remind myself not to be soft-hearted. I never thought they would come in handy here, in this way. Across from me, the expressions on my parents' and siblings' faces changed from initial bewilderment to panic, and finally to furious embarrassment. That's nonsense! You're talking garbage! Charles was so angry his face turned purple, his pointing finger trembling. Diane slapped her thigh and wailed, "You heartless thing! You're making up lies to slander your own parents." Marcus and Julian immediately started cursing, using foul language too obscene to repeat. The comments began to shift directions slightly. Wait, something seems off here. If what she's saying is true, then these parents are indeed a bit. Math class money became gambling funds. Computer became diamond necklace. This operation is quite something. Starting to see a reversal? Waiting to see how this unfolds. The AI judge ignored the plaintiff party's commotion. Evidence received, conducting preliminary verification, accessing memory data. In the center of the courtroom, a massive holographic screen lit up. It began rapidly flashing through some blurry scene fragments. These were scenes directly extracted and reconstructed from the memory cortex of both parties' brains by the AI. Although somewhat distorted, the basic facts were clear. I saw scenes of young me holding my report card, looking hopefully at my father, and him, counting what should have been tuition money, walking into River Casino. I saw my mother at the Tiffany & Company counter, happily trying on that diamond necklace. I saw my second brother taking that stack of green bills and throwing them into the state lottery station. Memory data verification complete. Partial facts stated by defendant Aria Montgomery are confirmed. The AI's declaration was like a silent slap across the faces of the 6 people opposite me. Their shouting stopped abruptly. Their faces became extremely ugly. Diane's eyes showed panic, her lips trembling. Charles had veins bulging on his forehead, breathing heavily. I looked at him and delivered my final bombshell, word by word. Additionally, please have the court calculate my financial output to my birth family since I started working, Records show that in 5 years of work, I have transferred a total of $23,000 to my parents' accounts as living expenses, private supplements to older brother Marcus for house purchasing, $30,000, covering second brother Julian's credit card debt and various small loans, totaling $13,000. I paused, then added the final statement. All of the above have bank transfer records as evidence. Except for living expenses explicitly designated as gifts, all other amounts remain unpaid. If today we absolutely must settle so-called parenting debt, then please also settle what they owe me. The courtroom fell into deathly silence, only the comments were still scrolling frantically. Holy shit, reversal after reversal. Living expenses aside, she also subsidized her brothers that much? 30,000 plus 13,000, that's 43,000. Add the living expenses and that's almost 90,000. This isn't raising a daughter, this is raising an ATM machine. Where are those people who were cursing the daughter earlier? Come out and take a walk. I knew it. It takes 2 hands to clap. Aria Montgomery unfilial and blood-sucking family topics are both trending now. Go check it out. The 6 people across from me had faces that changed from ugly to deathly pale. My older brother Marcus avoided eye contact, not daring to look at me. Second brother Julian stiffened his neck, still wanting to say something, but was firmly held back by his wife Celeste. Veronica pursed her lips, muttering under her breath. That little bit of money, she has the nerve to bring it up. Only my parents were still making their last desperate stand. Diane sat down on the floor and began throwing a tantrum. There's no way to live anymore. A daughter settling accounts so clearly with her parents. We gave birth to you and raised you. Don't you have any sense of family feeling left? Charles was even more direct in his bullying tactics. You're talking complete garbage. I spent much more raising you than those pittances. Judge, don't listen to her nonsense. Order her to pay $186,000, not a penny less. The AI judge's cold voice suppressed all the chaos. Evidence and data entry complete. This case involves a large amount and multiple factual disputes, requiring in-depth calculation. Court is now adjourned. In 1 hour, the final verdict will be announced. The 30-minute recess felt endlessly stretched. The 6 people across from me huddled together, heads close together, discussing something intensely in low voices. I could even occasionally hear my mother Diane's shrill voice rising. She wouldn't dare. She's rebelling against us. She must pay. Julian is waiting for this money for his emergency. My second brother Julian irritably scratched his hair. Dad, Mom, what she said earlier. Shut up! My father Charles growled, his eyes sinisterly sweeping toward my direction. Everything she said is garbage, things without evidence. No evidence. I looked down at my phone at those fragmentary records I had saved, those small matters they thought I had long forgotten or wouldn't care about. The math class incident was told to my mother privately by my middle school homeroom teacher who couldn't bear to watch, and I overheard it. The laptop computer was something I accidentally heard when my mother was bragging to my aunt about the diamond necklace. The birthday check becoming lottery tickets was when my second brother let it slip himself, even mocking me for being stupid, saying that money in Mom's hands belonged to Mom. These fragments I had previously considered thorns in my heart, now they had become nails hammered into their coffin. My older brother Marcus approached my parents, whispering, Dad, Mom, we can't let her keep talking like that later. The impact is too bad. His wife Veronica immediately agreed. Right, the comments are all criticizing us. We need to think of something. Celeste, my second sister-in-law, rolled her eyes. Dad, Mom, I have an idea. Their voices dropped even lower, but I could see the malicious smile on her face. She definitely wasn't planning anything good. Although the comments were no longer visible, I knew the public opinion outside must have exploded. The hashtags #Aria Montgomery unfilial hashtag and hashtag bloodsucking family hashtag were simultaneously trending. Supporters and critics were fighting fiercely. Support Aria. This is clearly a bloodsucking family. You can calculate money clearly, but can you calculate the debt of birth and raising? No matter how wrong parents are, they're still parents. The sanctimonious person above can get lost. Look at those two brothers' faces. Waiting for the AI judge's final verdict, let them fight it out. When the time came, the courtroom lights brightened again. The AI judge's cold voice echoed. Court session continues. Now for final statements. My parents exchanged glances. Diane rushed forward first, putting on that crying face again. Your Honor, we know that what Aria mentioned earlier hurt her feelings. But there are no perfect parents in the world. We know that back then we were poor and had no choice, and we wronged her, but in our hearts we loved her. That math class. Yes, we were wrong, but we thought girls don't need to study so much. The computer. I later gave her my sister's old one, didn't I? That check. I was thinking Julian was unemployed at the time, hoping he might win something to turn his life around and help the family. She turned black into white, focusing on the minor issues while avoiding the major ones. She attributed the facts I had pointed out to helplessness and small grievances. Charles nodded along with a pained expression. Aria, Dad knows some things were Dad's poor judgment, but Dad did everything for this family. Your two brothers haven't made much of themselves. Doesn't Dad have to worry more? You're our daughter, and so accomplished, Dad thought you would understand. He played the emotional card, trying to use family and necessity to blur their selfishness. I watched coldly, unmoved. Understand. Understand you treating me like a fool. Understand you treating me like an ATM. It was Marcus's turn. He cleared his throat and assumed his older brother stance. Little sister, I know you're angry. But we're family. Blood is thicker than water. Dad and Mum are getting old. Can't you take a step back? Do you have to make this so ugly? That 30,000, I'll definitely pay you back when I'm more comfortable. He spoke vaguely. When comfortable? When would that be? When pigs fly? Veronica immediately helped. Right, Aria, we're family. Why calculate so clearly? It hurts relationships. Celeste wasn't to be outdone. Little sister, look how upset you've made Dad and Mom. Just apologize quickly, pay the money, let this matter pass, and we'll still be good siblings afterward. Good siblings? I almost laughed listening to them. They took turns with soft and hard tactics. Their goal was singular, to make me acknowledge that $186,000 debt, to characterize everything I had exposed as small conflicts and misunderstandings. The comments began to waver again. Sigh, it does sound quite helpless. Every family has its difficult problems. The parents have apologized. As a daughter, she should let it go. Yes, after all, they're family. Why do I feel like this family is still avoiding the main issues? The core problems haven't been resolved at all. I watched them perform and waited for them to finish speaking. Only then did I calmly open my mouth. Your Honor, my final statement is very simple. I request fair calculation. How much they spent raising me, I acknowledge. How much I've contributed to them and this family, please also calculate clearly. Beyond this, I have no additional words. AI Judge, final statements complete, now beginning final calculation combining all evidence, memory data, and social ethical parameters. Verdict will be delivered in 10 minutes. The courtroom quieted again. The 6 people across from me were obviously anxious and restless. Julian kept shaking his leg. Celeste leaned toward Diane's ear, whispering something. Charles's expression grew increasingly dark. I noticed that when the AI judge mentioned social ethical parameters, my older brother Marcus's mouth corner twitched almost imperceptibly. He seemed nervous about something. Time passed, minute by minute. These 10 minutes felt longer than the previous 30 minutes. Finally, the AI judge's voice rang out again. Calculation complete, now announcing the verdict. Everyone's attention, including countless invisible comments, focused on that light source in the dome. After calculation, plaintiffs Charles Montgomery and Diane Fletcher Montgomery, in actual child-rearing costs invested before defendant Aria Montgomery became independent, including basic living, education, medical, etc., minus unfulfilled promise depreciation, total $77,200. When this figure came out, my parents nearly jumped up. How much? 77,000. Impossible, Diane shrieked. Charles cursed even more. Bullshit, I spent at least 186,000. The AI judge ignored their commotion and continued reading. Defendant Aria Montgomery, in 5 years since beginning work, has paid $23,000 in living expenses to parents. Additionally, there is clearly evidenced gratuitous economic support to brothers Marcus and Julian, totaling $43,000, minus the defendant's legal filial support obligation share. The AI judge paused. I felt my heartbeat skip a beat. Final verdict as follows. Plaintiffs Charles Montgomery, Diane Fletcher Montgomery, and their associated plaintiffs Marcus Montgomery, Veronica Stone Montgomery, Julian Montgomery, Celeste Rivers Montgomery, must jointly return $88,200 to defendant Aria Montgomery. This payment must be completed within 30 days of the verdict taking effect. $88,200. Not them asking me for $186,000, but them owing me $88,000. The courtroom fell silent for an instant. Then the opposite side exploded. What? Return money to her. $88,008. Diane's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, her voice cracking. Impossible. What kind of garbage verdict is this? I don't accept it. Charles jumped up and down in rage, pointing at the dome and cursing. Marcus's face was deathly pale, mumbling, "How could this happen? 88,008. Veronica screamed, "Why should we return money? That money was given voluntarily by her." Julian was even more directly defiant. "No money available. Want it? Take my life. Try to come collect if you dare." Celeste sat down on the floor, slapping her thigh and wailing, "There's no way to live. This is bullying. What kind of world is this?" They completely tore off their disguises. Anger, unwillingness, disbelief. Their ugly behavior was fully displayed. The comments went completely crazy at this moment. Ha 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 ha, reversal, ultimate reversal. AI judge is awesome, fair, so satisfying, been frustrated all evening, finally satisfying. Did you see that family's dumbfounded expressions? Ha 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 ha. Let them be greedy, serves them right. Support Aria, take back what belongs to you. Wait, can this money actually be collected? Seems unlikely. I looked at those 6 relatives who had fallen into madness across from me. My heart felt no great joy, only a heavy sense of relief and deeper exhaustion. This farce had finally, in this absurd way, temporarily come to an end. The AI judge's cold voice suppressed the chaos. Verdict is in effect. If refused to execute, forced execution will be applied and inclusion in the credit blacklist will follow. Court session ended. The light immediately dimmed. The live signal was cut. The virtual courtroom scene began to blur and fade. I stood in place, watching those 6 faces distorted by anger and greed gradually become transparent, finally disappearing completely. The surroundings returned to the scene in my home. as if everything that had just happened was only a bizarre dream. But the electronic copy of the verdict received on my phone reminded me that all of this was real. I let out a long breath of turbid air. Before I could recover, a new anonymous message quietly jumped to the top of my phone screen. Only 4 short words. This isn't over. The sender was an unknown number. My heart suddenly sank. Looking at those 4 words, a chill ran straight from my feet to the top of my head. They wouldn't give up. I knew. Based on my understanding of them, this was definitely not the end. It might even just be the beginning of another storm. I gripped my phone tightly, walked to the window, looking at the city lights below. I had to leave here, immediately, right now. This house, this city, I couldn't stay temporarily. I turned around and began quickly packing luggage, moving efficiently, taking only necessary documents, bank cards, and a few changes of clothes. My brain was racing. Where to go, who to find. They knew all my friends' and colleagues' contact information. I couldn't implicate others. First go to a strange city, settle down, and then decide. I closed the suitcase, zipped it up, picked up my bag, and walked to the door. Placed my hand on the door handle, but paused for a moment. The anonymous message's 4 words coiled around my heart like poisonous snakes. This isn't over. I took a deep breath and turned the door lock. Outside the door, no one. The hallway's motion sensor lights came on due to my footsteps. Dim yellow, quiet. I walked quickly toward the elevator, pressed the down button. The elevator slowly rose from the first floor. Numbers kept jumping. 7, 8, 9. My heartbeat also followed those numbers, beating faster and faster. Ding! The elevator door slowly opened in front of me. The elevator door opened, empty inside. I walked in and pressed the negative first floor parking garage button. As the elevator descended, I stared at the jumping numbers, my mind repeatedly replaying the courtroom scenes. Their final man-eating expressions, and that anonymous message. This isn't over. The elevator reached the negative first floor. As soon as the door opened, I pulled my suitcase quickly toward my parking space. It was very quiet around me, only my footsteps and the sound of wheels rubbing against the ground. Reaching my car, I took out my keys to unlock it. The car lights flashed once. Just as I pulled open the driver's door, my phone rang. It was my mother Diane calling. I looked at the name jumping on the screen and hung up directly, blocked her number. Immediately after, my father Charles's call came in. Same thing, hung up and blocked. I got in the car and started the engine. The car drove out of the parking garage and merged into the night traffic. The phone kept vibrating. It was my older brother Marcus, second brother Julian, both sisters-in-law, taking turns bombarding me. I hung up and blocked them all. The world finally became quiet. I drove to a small motel on the outskirts of the city, got a room and double-locked the door, put the suitcase in the corner, fell exhaustedly on the bed. The phone screen lit up again. It was a text from an unknown number. "Aria, this is Mom. You don't need to block us, we just want to talk with you." I stared at that text and didn't reply. Directly blocked this number too. I knew this was definitely not just about talking. They wanted money. They wanted me to give up that $88,000 verdict. They might even want to extract more from me. I knew them too well. For the next few days, everything was calm. They didn't contact me anymore. But I didn't let my guard down, changed accommodations every day, tried not to go to crowded places. On the 5th day after the verdict took effect, my phone received a push notification from the local social platform. The headline was shocking. "Unfilial daughter conspires with AI to drive birth parents to death. Elderly seek help in tears." I clicked to open it. Inside was a photo of my parents. They were wearing shabby clothes, sitting in what looked like a bare room, crying to the camera. The accompanying text was heart-wrenching. It described how their daughter was so heartless, conspiring with cold machines to calculate away their coffin money. How their 2 sons were so struggling, unemployed and sick. How the family now couldn't even afford food, relying on neighbors' help. Below was also a GoFundMe donation link attached. I looked at that article, trembling with anger, turning black into white, shameless. The comments below were even more unbearable. My God, is this daughter even human? The elderly are so pitiful, already donated, just a small gesture. Support the elderly, sue to the end. Human flesh, search this Aria Montgomery, make her socially dead. IAI justice, look what you've done. My personal information, workplace, photos were all dug up, posted online for anyone to insult and curse. Private messages were filled with various curses and threats. I turned off my phone, feeling a heavy blockage in my chest. They were going to completely destroy me, using public opinion to force me to submit. Sure enough, not long after, a distant cousin I hadn't contacted in a long time found my new number. Aria, I'm your cousin Emily. Look at what your parents' situation has become. We're all family. Why is this necessary? Your parents know they were wrong. Just take a step back, withdraw that verdict, go back and apologize to them, and this matter will pass. I directly interrupted her. Emily, please don't get involved in this matter. They know they were wrong. They're using this method to pressure me. Emily sighed. Oh dear, your parents had no choice either. Your second brother Julian's child is sick and urgently needs money. They're old and confused. As their daughter, you should be more understanding. I laughed coldly. Understanding? Let them continue sucking my blood. Emily, if you're here as a mediator, we have nothing to discuss. I hung up, blocked. Not long after, another unknown number called. It was my Uncle Robert. He started with a scolding. Aria Montgomery, do you have any respect for your elders? Forcing your parents to beg online, are you very proud? I'm telling you, hurry back and resolve this. Otherwise, I don't have a niece like you. I calmly listened to him finish yelling. Then I spoke. Uncle Robert, I remember you borrowed $8,000 from me the year before last, saying you'd return it in 3 months, and you still haven't returned it. If you really care so much about my parents, why don't you return my money first and give it to them for emergency use? The other end of the phone immediately got stuck. After mumbling a few sentences, he hurriedly hung up. I looked at the darkened phone screen, my heart completely cold. See? These are the so-called relatives. At critical moments, they only stand on the moral high ground to criticize you. When they really need to help, they hide faster than anyone. 7 days after the verdict took effect, I received an unexpected call. It was my former direct supervisor at the company, Johnson, a fairly honest middle-aged man. Little Aria, that situation with your family. It's causing quite a stir. Johnson's voice sounded somewhat helpless. Johnson, I've caused you trouble. I apologized. It's not really trouble, it's just, your parents came to the company today. My heart tightened. They went to the company. Yeah, crying and making a scene in the lobby downstairs, saying you don't care for them, demanding the company hand you over. Security couldn't get them to leave. It looked very bad. Johnson paused. The leadership's meaning, you shouldn't come to the company recently, take a vacation, wait for this to blow over. I gripped my phone tightly, my nails dug into my palm. They actually made trouble at my company. Johnson, I'm sorry. No need to apologize. I understand you. Johnson sighed. You're not easy, kid, I know. Avoid the spotlight for now. We'll talk about work later. After hanging up, I looked out the window. The sky was gloomy, as if it was about to rain. They were cutting off all my paths, forcing me to show myself, forcing me to compromise. The phone started vibrating again. This time, it was my mother Diane using another new number to request a video call. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. I wanted to see what else they planned to do. The video connected. On screen were my parents, plus my 2 brothers and sisters-in-law. They were squeezed into a shabby little room. It looked exactly like that bare house I had seen online before. Diane faced the camera, crying until her eyes were red and swollen. Aria, my daughter. Mum knows she was wrong. Mum is sorry. Look at what kind of life we're living now. She turned the camera around, sweeping across the room. It really was broken and old, but I knew this was definitely not where they currently lived. My parents had an old house that, while not large, was definitely not this broken. This had to be a prop found from somewhere. Charles also approached the camera, tears streaming down his face. Aria, Dad was wrong. Dad is not human. Dad shouldn't have calculated so clearly with you. Come back, Dad misses you. My older brother Marcus looked pained. Little sister, I'm useless, incompetent, made you a laughingstock. Look at how Mom and Dad are now, please forgive them. Second brother Julian held a sickly-looking little boy. Little sister, look at your nephew, he's sick, no money to go to the hospital. Second brother begs you, second brother was wrong before. Veronica and Celeste also wiped tears beside them, speaking softly. The whole family looked pitiful and miserable, as if I was the heinous criminal who had driven them to desperation. If the comments could be seen, they would probably reverse again. I quietly watched them perform. My heart felt no waves. I even wanted to laugh a little. They acted so realistically. Unfortunately, I knew their true nature. Diane saw I wasn't speaking and cried even harder. Aria, are you really this heartless? Are you really going to watch your parents die in front of you? We don't want that 88,008 anymore. We don't want it anymore, isn't that enough? Come back, we'll still be family, okay? Charles followed along. Right, we don't want it. Dad doesn't want that money anymore. You come back, Dad will cook you delicious food. I looked at them, slowly spoke. Are you finished performing? The crying on the video side stopped abruptly. Everyone's expressions froze on their faces. What did you say? Diane was a bit confused. I said, are you finished performing? I repeated. Using a broken house found from who knows where to act pitiful, holding other people's children to pretend they're sick, making trouble at my company, posting smear articles online, now organizing group performances of tragic plays. I laughed coldly. You're not tired, but I'm tired of watching. Charles's face immediately changed. Aria Montgomery, how dare you talk to your mother like that? We sincerely admit our mistakes. Don't be so ungrateful. Sure enough, they couldn't keep up the act. I directly exposed their tricks. Sincerely admitting mistakes? Fine. First transfer that 88,008 to me. Once it's in my account, I'll immediately come back to see you. Diane screamed, 88,008? You're dreaming. That money was originally ours. See, I knew she was this type. Julian jumped up in anger. Little sister, you've gone too far. Marcus looked disappointed. Veronica and Celeste also started pointing and cursing at me. The video was hung up amid chaos. The world became quiet again. I blocked this new number too, walked to the window, looking at the drizzling rain outside. They had used both soft and hard tactics, exhausting their methods. What would be the next step? I had a bad feeling. They wouldn't give up just like this. Something even more vicious was probably still to come. I had to be more careful. The phone vibrated again, not a call, but a text message, from another completely new unknown number. Aria, Dad is sick, very seriously. The doctor says it might just be a matter of these few days. Dad's last wish is to see you one more time, for the family to have one Thanksgiving dinner together. Please, Dad is begging you, come back. I looked at that text message. My heart felt like it was being gripped by an invisible hand. Sick, very serious. Another new lie. But what if it was true? I looked at that text, struggling terribly inside, knowing it was most likely a scam. But what if it was true? After all, that was my father. The debt of birth and raising, like shackles, strangled me until I couldn't breathe. I called a trustworthy old colleague, Jessica. She was my closest relationship at the former company and knew about my family's broken situation. Jessica, my dad sent a text saying he's critically ill and wants to see me one last time. Jessica immediately started cursing on the other end of the phone. That's bullshit, don't believe it. They were still energetically making trouble at your company a few days ago. How could they be dying all of a sudden? It's definitely to trick you into coming back. I smiled bitterly. I know, but… No buts. Jessica's tone was serious. Aria, listen to your sister's advice. This family has no bottom line. They can do anything. You going back would be like a sheep walking into a tiger's den. I was silent for a moment. Jessica, I'll just go back to take a look. If it's fake, I'll leave immediately. I'll send you the time I'm going home. If I don't report safety to you within 2 hours, call the police for me. Jessica sighed. You kid, you're just too soft-hearted. Fine, send me the time and address. I'll help you keep an eye out. Remember, if you notice anything wrong, run immediately. Don't get entangled with them. After hanging up, I looked at that critically ill text on my phone. Finally, I still replied with 3 words. What time? Address? The other side replied almost instantly. Tonight 7 o'clock, you know the old house address. Just have a casual meal. Absolutely won't mention money. Dad just wants to see you. I replied, okay. Then sent the time and location to Jessica. Jessica quickly replied, received, be careful. At 6:30 in the evening, I drove to the downstairs of my parents' old house. Stood downstairs for a while, observing the situation. The windows were lit, and I could hear vague cooking sounds from inside. Everything looked normal. I took a deep breath and went upstairs, knocked on the door. The door opened quickly. It was my mother, Diane. When she saw me, her face instantly broke into an exaggerated smile. Oh my, Aria's back. Come in quickly. She enthusiastically grabbed my arm, pulling me inside. The strength was surprisingly strong, nothing like someone with a critically ill family member at home. I walked into the house. In the living room were my father Charles, my 2 brothers, and 2 sisters-in-law, all present. The table was full of dishes, indeed all foods I used to love. Charles sat in the main seat, his face looking a bit pale, but definitely not like someone who had just a few days left. When he saw me, he struggled to squeeze out 2 tears. Aria, you finally came back. Dad thought he wouldn't see you one last time. He even coughed a few times while speaking. The acting was exaggerated. I laughed coldly in my heart. Sure enough, it was like this. Dad, don't you look pretty good? I directly exposed it. Charles's crying stopped abruptly. His face looked awkward. Diane quickly smoothed things over. Oh dear, your dad is having a moment of revival seeing you. He's happy. Sit quickly, the food is getting cold. I was pressed into a chair. My older brother Marcus poured me a drink. Little sister, have some apple juice, your favorite. I looked at that cup of orange-yellow liquid and didn't move. I'll just drink water. I got up myself and went to the kitchen to pour a glass of plain water. Returning to my seat, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Second brother Julian tried to liven the mood. Little sister, look, this whole table of dishes, Mum specially made for you, all your favorites. Veronica and Celeste also smiled and agreed. Right, Aria. Mom was busy all afternoon. Try it quickly. They absolutely didn't mention money or the court case, just kept urging me to eat and drink, enthusiastic to the point of being excessive. When things are abnormal, there must be demons. I became even more vigilant. I only picked vegetables in front of me and ate white rice. Didn't touch the drinks at all, only drank the water I poured myself. Diane saw I was completely unreceptive and became a bit anxious. She gave Charles a meaningful look. Charles started acting again, clutching his chest, moaning and groaning. Oh, my chest hurts. Aria, Dad might really be dying. Dad wronged you before. Please forgive Dad. I looked at him coldly. Dad, what's uncomfortable? Should I call an ambulance? Charles quickly waved his hands. No need, no need. It's an old condition. I'll be fine after resting. Diane took the opportunity to push a glass of apple juice toward me. Aria, look at your dad's condition. Just drink one glass as forgiveness for your dad, okay? I looked at that glass of apple juice, then looked at their family's expectant gazes. Warning bells rang loudly in my heart. This drink definitely had problems. I picked up the glass, pretending to drink. All their eyes lit up, staring intently at my movements. I brought the glass to my lips, paused for a moment, then put it down. Suddenly don't want apple juice, I'll stick with water. Their expressions instantly fell. Diane's eyes flashed with irritation and viciousness. Although quickly concealed, I caught it. Charles also stopped moaning. The atmosphere under the table became somewhat tense. I knew I couldn't stay any longer. I put down my chopsticks. I'm full, Dad looks fine, I'm leaving first. I was about to get up. Don't go. Diane suddenly pressed down on my arm. The strength was frighteningly strong. The meal isn't finished yet. Where are you going? Her expression was somewhat ferocious, completely different from the previous enthusiasm. Marcus and Julian also stood up, vaguely blocking my path. Little sister, sit a bit longer, it's rare for us to gather. I felt a sinking in my heart. Were they about to tear off the mask? Let go, I looked at Diane. I want to leave. Diane held me tightly without releasing. Leave what leave? Today you must sign this. She pulled out a folded paper from her pocket and slammed it on the table. I glanced at it. It was a statement renouncing the rights to that 88,008 verdict. Sure enough, still about money. I won't sign, I said firmly. You have no choice. Charles also stood up. Where was there any sign of illness? Today you'll sign whether you want to or not. They formed a circle of 6 adults around me, looking at me menacingly. I was isolated and helpless. My heart felt cold, but I forced myself to stay calm. What? Want to use force? Don't forget, this is a society ruled by law. Julian scoffed. Rule of law. A family discussing family matters behind closed doors. What law is that breaking? Little sister, I advise you to be sensible and sign obediently. We can still save you some face. Veronica spoke sarcastically. Exactly. Making such a scene in court was so ugly. Just sign and we'll still be family. Celeste also chimed in. Just sign it, Aria. It's good for you and for us. I looked at these greedy and shameless faces. I was completely disgusted. Get out of the way. My voice was ice cold. Diane gripped my arm without letting go. You're not leaving without signing. I tried hard to shake her off, but she held too tightly. Marcus and Julian also moved closer. The situation was about to explode. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. It was Jessica calling. The agreed-upon safety check time was almost up. I immediately answered and put it on speaker. Aria, are you okay? Time's almost up. Jessica's anxious voice came through. Diane and the others froze. I immediately spoke loudly into the phone. Jessica, I'm at my parents' house right now. They won't let me leave, forcing me to sign a statement giving up my rights. Help me call the police. The address is... I quickly reported the address. Diane reacted, shrieking as she lunged to grab my phone. What are you talking about? Who's not letting you leave? Marcus pressed down on my phone hand. The call was disconnected, but the message had already been transmitted. Their faces all changed. Obviously they hadn't expected me to have this backup plan. You called the police? Charles pointed at me, his hand trembling. Yes. I shook off Marcus's hand, looking at them coldly. The police will be here soon. Didn't you want to discuss family matters? Discuss them with the police. Diane was so angry her face turned white. You ungrateful wretch, you dare call the police on your own parents. You're the ones who started the violence. I didn't back down. For a moment, the scene was deadlocked. They didn't dare forcibly detain me anymore, but they also wouldn't step aside. They seemed to be hesitating. I looked at them, calculating in my mind when the police would arrive. Suddenly, Diane seemed to make some decision. She abruptly turned around and grabbed the glass of apple juice I hadn't drunk in front of me. With lightning speed, she splashed it directly at my face. I instinctively dodged to the side. Most of the apple juice splashed on my hair and shoulders, sticky and unpleasant. But a small amount still splattered on my lips, a strange, sickly sweet taste. Warning bells rang frantically in my heart. This apple juice really had problems. I immediately used the back of my hand to wipe my mouth, trying to spit it out. But it was too late. My tongue felt a bit numb. A dizzy sensation immediately hit me, more intense than being drunk. You... I pointed at them, my body starting to weaken, vision blurring. Diane's face showed a triumphant, sinister smile. Refusing the toast means drinking the penalty wine. Originally wanted you to sign comfortably, but you insisted on making trouble. Charles also looked relieved. Hurry up, get her to the inner room, make her sign. I felt someone supporting my arms. It was Marcus and Julian. I wanted to struggle, but couldn't exert any strength in my body, like a puddle of mud. They dragged me toward the bedroom. I heard Diane's excited voice, as if she was talking to someone on the phone. Hello, Mr. Wilson. Right, it's done. Can send her over tonight. Don't worry, still a virgin, clean. That $50,000 bride price, please consider. My brain buzzed. Mr. Wilson. Bride price, $50,000. They didn't just want money. They were going to sell me, using my entire life to exchange for $50,000. Fear poured over me like ice water. I wanted to scream, to resist, but my throat could only make hoarse gasping sounds. Consciousness was dragged into endless darkness. The last thing I heard was Diane's fawning and greedy voice. Wonderful, wonderful. We'll deliver first thing tomorrow morning. Guarantee your satisfaction. Consciousness felt like sinking in the deep sea, struggling, wanting to surface. There were blurry voices in my ears. Really can sell for $50,000? This was Celeste's voice, with undisguised excitement. Of course, Mr. Wilson said he especially likes this educated type. Diane's voice was shrill. If she wasn't still a virgin, she wouldn't be worth this price. Mom, that money, Julian's side is waiting for emergency funds. This was Veronica. What's the rush? When the money comes in, you won't be left out. Charles interrupted her. First, make sure the person is secure. Don't let anything go wrong. Don't worry, Dad, that dose is enough for her to sleep until tomorrow morning, Marcus's voice. Sign first, then send her over double insurance, Julian added. I felt someone roughly grabbing my hand. A cold pen was stuffed between my fingers. pressed onto paper. They were forging my signature on that renunciation statement. I wanted to move. My fingers felt like they weren't my own, couldn't exert any force. My eyelids were heavy as lead, could only barely open a slit. Dim lamplight, familiar bedroom ceiling. It was the small room I used to live in at home. My hands and feet were tied with something, painfully tight. My mouth was also sealed with tape. Despair surged up like a tide. They really dared. Selling their daughter. Just for $50,000. No, there was also that $88,008. They wanted to drain every last bit of value from me. Outside came the sound of bowls and chopsticks clinking, and vague laughter. They were eating, celebrating the soon-to-be-acquired windfall. I forced myself to calm down. Can't panic. Jessica should have already called the police. The police might come, but what if they were fooled by the parents at the door with family matters? Can't put all hope on others. I slowly turned my neck, observing the surroundings. The room was messy, piled with miscellaneous items. My bag was thrown in the corner. My phone should be inside. The distance was a bit far. I was tied up, difficult to reach. Had to find a way to loosen the ropes. I curled up my body, trying to use my hands bound behind my back to reach the rope knots at my ankles. The movements couldn't be too big, afraid of making noise. The knots were tied very tightly. The rough nylon rope rubbed the skin on my wrists raw, burning painfully. I gritted my teeth and continued picking at them. My nails split. Warm liquid flowed out. It was blood, sticky and slippery, actually making the rope slide a bit. I endured the pain and continued. The laughter outside grew louder. Seemed like they were dividing the spoils. 50,000 in hand, first pay off Julian's debts. The rest, buy Marcus a new car. We old folks should also enjoy some good times. That dead girl finally wasn't raised for nothing. My heart grew colder, bit by bit, like being soaked in an ice cave. Finally, the rope knot at my ankle loosened a bit. I struggled hard. It didn't open, but the gap was bigger. I brought my hands from behind my back to the front with difficulty. My wrists were tied, movements were awkward, but at least my hands could move in front. I tore off the tape from my mouth. It hurt terribly, couldn't worry about that. I inched bit by bit toward the corner with my bag, like a crawling worm. Slow speed was maddening. Any second someone might push the door open. Finally, my fingertips touched the bag strap. My heart leapt with joy. I used force to hook the bag over. The zipper was open. I reached inside, feeling around. Phone, cold touch. I pulled it out. The screen was locked. I used my tied hands, struggling to unlock it. The screen lit up. Battery only 15% left. Several missed calls, all from Jessica. There was also a text message. Aria, what's happening? Called the police. Police said they contacted your parents. Your parents said you're fine, already sleeping. What's really going on? Reply when you see this. Sure enough, the police were fooled by them. I immediately texted Jessica back. Jessica, I've been drugged and tied up. They want to sell me. Address is the old house. Save me. After sending, I opened the map and took a screenshot of my location. Sent it together to Jessica. Then, I dialed 911. Lowered my voice, speaking as clearly as possible. 911? I need to report illegal detention and human trafficking. Address is... I quickly gave the address. I've been drugged and tied up in the bedroom. They're planning to sell me to someone named Wilson tomorrow morning. Please dispatch immediately. The operator confirmed the information and said they would dispatch immediately. I hung up the phone, put the phone on silent and tucked it back in the bag, kicked the bag back to the corner, also moved myself back to the original position, pretended to still be unconscious. My heart was pounding wildly in my chest. My hands and feet were still weak from the drugs and tension. Now, I could only wait. Wait for Jessica to see the message. Wait for the police to arrive. Time passed, minute by minute. Outside seemed to quiet down a bit, probably finished eating. I heard footsteps approaching the bedroom door. My heart jumped to my throat. The door handle turned. I quickly closed my eyes and slowed my breathing. The door opened. Someone walked in. It was Diane. She walked to my side and kicked me. Humph, sleeping like a dead pig. She bent down to check the ropes on my wrists. Tsk, how did they get a bit loose and bleeding? My heart tightened. Did she discover something? She retightened the ropes. The pain almost made me cry out. I bit my lips hard. She seemed not to notice I was awake, muttering, "Lucky for that old bachelor Wilson if we weren't desperate for money." She kicked me again, then turned and left, locked the door again. I heard her footsteps fade away. Only then did I dare quietly open my eyes. My wrists had been retightened, more painful. Blood was stickily stuck to the ropes. But at least, the police should arrive soon. I perked up my ears, listening to the movement outside. There seemed to be car sounds approaching from far away. Then, urgent knocking on the door. "Open up! Police!" They came. My heart surged with excitement. Outside immediately became chaotic. "Police? How did they come again?" "Quick, hide her." "Hide where?" "Under the bed, quick." The bedroom door was suddenly slammed open. Marcus and Julian rushed in, frantically trying to stuff me under the bed. "Don't move! Police!" Several officers quickly rushed into the room and subdued them. "Officer, misunderstanding, all misunderstanding." Charles followed behind, trying to explain. "We're family, just playing around." Diane also shrieked, "She's my daughter. We didn't break any law." A female officer came over to help me untie the ropes. Seeing the bloody abrasions on my wrists, she frowned. "This is playing around." I pointed at Diane and the others. "Officers, it's them who drugged me, tied me up, and wanted to sell me to someone called Wilson for $50,000 bride price." Diane's face turned deathly pale. "You're lying. No such thing." Charles also denied. "Officer, she's lying. She hates us, deliberately framing us." Just then, my phone in the bag rang. Although on silent, the vibration sound was quite clear in the now quiet room. The female officer went over and took out the phone. The screen showed an incoming call from an unknown number. The contact name was Mr. Wilson. Diane and Charles's faces instantly lost all color. The female officer looked at them and answered the call, putting it on speaker. A rough male voice came through. "Hello? Montgomery family, is the person ready? I've got the money ready here, $50,000, cash. I'll send a car to pick her up first thing tomorrow morning." The room fell into dead silence. Only Mr. Wilson's voice continued. "Let me tell you, don't try any tricks. I want this person." The evidence was conclusive. Diane's legs gave out and she collapsed on the floor. Charles pointed at her, shaking with rage. You contacted him. You did all this." He was trying to clear himself. Marcus and Julian also panicked, pointing at Diane. "Right, it was Mom's idea. We didn't know." "All Mom's contact." Veronica and Celeste also quickly agreed, pushing all responsibility onto Diane. A family, when facing disaster, each flying their own way. Utterly ugly. The police handcuffed all of them, including my two sisters-in-law, who tried to hide. "Take them all away, back to the station for investigation." I was helped to stand by the female officer. My wrists and ankles hurt terribly. My body was also weak from the drug effects. But seeing those 6 relatives handcuffed and looking ashen, my heart felt only cold numbness. This farce had finally, in this absurd way, temporarily ended. The female officer asked me gently, "Do you need to go to the hospital for a checkup?" I shook my head. I'll go give a statement first. Walking to the door, Diane suddenly struggled and turned around, glaring at me viciously, her eyes like poisoned knives. Aria Montgomery, you damned money-losing wretch, I should have drowned you in the toilet when you were born. You wait, even as a ghost I won't let you go. Her curses were sharp and piercing, but were mercilessly suppressed by the police, and she was shoved into the police car. The police car drove me directly to the hospital, blood tests, and examination. My system indeed tested positive for sedative drug components. Soft tissue injuries on wrists and ankles needed treatment. The doctor cleaned and dressed my wounds, and Jessica rushed over anxiously. Aria, are you okay? You scared me to death. She looked at my bandaged wrists, her eyes reddening. Those damned people, really inhuman. I shook my head, managing a tired smile. It's okay now, Jessica. Thank you. Thank me for what? If you hadn't been clever, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Jessica was furious. What did the police say? They've all been taken back for questioning. The evidence is solid, should be enough to give them trouble. After completing the examination and getting medicine, Jessica insisted on taking me to her house temporarily. I'm not comfortable with you being alone. Stay at my place first. Wait until this matter is completely resolved. I didn't refuse. I really did need a safe place now. The next morning, news about my parents and siblings-in-law being arrested spread in small circles. Various versions of rumors and gossip. Some said our family turned against each other for money. Some said I was heartless and sent the whole family to jail. Others said we conspired to defraud Mr. Wilson unsuccessfully. The more it spread, the more outrageous it became. My phone started being bombarded by unknown numbers again, reporters wanting interviews, people watching the drama for excitement, others claiming to be Mr. Wilson's relatives coming to curse. I simply turned off my phone, used Jessica's old phone for temporary contact. In the afternoon, the officer handling the case called, asking me to come to the station. Said there were some details that needed supplementary verification. I went. At the police station entrance, I unexpectedly ran into my Aunt Lisa and Uncle Robert. They obviously came to bail people out. Seeing me, Lisa immediately rushed over, pointing at my nose and cursing. Aria Montgomery, are you even human? Those are your birth parents, your real brothers and sisters-in-law. You really want to put them in prison. Robert also had a dark face. Hurry up and tell the police it was a misunderstanding, family members playing around. Let them out. I looked at them. My heart felt no waves whatsoever. Misunderstanding, drugging people, tying them up, selling daughters, is a misunderstanding. Lisa choked for a moment, then became even tougher. That must have been your mum being confused for a moment. You can't really call the police. Family shame shouldn't be aired publicly. Bringing this to the police station, does it look good? Robert chimed in. Exactly, it doesn't look good. I said calmly. But it's safe. You, Lisa shook with anger. How did I get such a cold-blooded niece? Just like your stubborn father. I stopped paying attention to them and walked straight into the police station. The police told me that Diane had confessed to contacting Wilson to sell me, but insisted it was her personal action. Others didn't know. Charles and my 2 brothers and 2 sisters-in-law desperately tried to distance themselves. Said they only cooperated with Diane to persuade me to sign. Didn't know about selling people. Typical abandoning the cart to save the horse. That Wilson, we're also looking for him, the officer said. The phone number is a prepaid card, temporarily can't locate him. According to your mother's confession, the other party might be a middleman specifically doing this kind of introduction business. My heart sank, meaning if we hadn't called police in time, I might really have been sold and disappeared without a trace. So, how will they be sentenced? Your mother is involved in illegal detention and human trafficking, evidence is quite sufficient, likely will be prosecuted. Your father and siblings-in-law, if found to have knowledge and participation, can't escape either. But currently, their stories are consistent, shirking responsibility. Investigation still needs time. I nodded. I'll cooperate with the investigation. After completing supplementary statements, I came out. Lisa and Robert were still waiting, hadn't left, blocking me at the door. Aria, Auntie begs you, okay? Lisa put on a pleading face. Your mum is old, can't stand prison. You drop the case, let her out. We don't want that 88,008, okay? Robert also softened his tone. Aria, we're all family, why be so ruthless? Your parents, no matter how wrong, raised you this big. You send them in, what will outsiders think of you? Do you still want to be a decent person in the future? The same old routine again. Using family ties for emotional blackmail. Using public opinion to threaten. I looked at them. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Robert, you care so much about my parents, why don't you focus on how they'll pay me back that 88,008 when they get out? Also, Aunt Lisa, when will you pay back that 8,000 you owe me? Uncle Robert, the money you borrowed from me before to buy cigarettes and alcohol, should that be calculated too? Their expressions immediately froze. You, Lisa pointed at me, speechless. I don't have a niece like you. Robert threw down that sentence and pulled Lisa away. Their retreating figures looked panicked. I stood there, watching them leave, knowing clearly in my heart that this matter wasn't over. I returned to Jessica's house. I opened my computer and looked at the local forum. Sure enough, new posts had appeared. Shocking. Unfilial daughter strikes again, personally sending parents and siblings to prison. Below was a photo of me leaving the police station. The angle was tricky, making me look expressionless and very cold. The comments were again full of curses. Too cruel. This is going to destroy the family. No matter how wrong parents are, you can't send them to prison. I heard her mum might get 10 years. My God. Who would dare marry this woman in the future? She destroys relatives. I closed the webpage. Out of sight, out of mind. Jessica poured me a glass of water. Stop looking. Those people online just talk without thinking. I know. I took the water glass. Let them talk. The next few days were calm. Police were still investigating. Wilson wasn't caught. Diane was formally charged. Charles and my 2 brothers and sisters-in-law were released on bail due to insufficient evidence for now. I knew they wouldn't give up easily. Sure enough, a week later, I received a phone call. It was Charles calling, using a new number. His voice was aged, with crying tones. Aria. Dad knows he was wrong. Dad is sorry. Your mum was arrested. This family is falling apart. Dad has no face to ask you not to prosecute your mum. But your second brother Julian's child was diagnosed with leukemia. Urgently needs money. The doctor said if not treated soon, there'll be no hope. Dad begs you, for the child's sake. That 88,008. You take it out first to save the child's life, okay? Dad will kneel to you. A thump sound came from the phone, as if he really knelt down. There was also the faint sound of a child crying in the background. My heart suddenly contracted. A child, leukemia, another new lie. But what if it was true? Children are innocent. Which hospital? What's the child's name? Who's the attending physician? I asked calmly. Charles hemmed and hawed. Just State Children's Hospital. The child's name is, oh, Aria. Why are you asking so specifically? Would Dad lie to you? Dad really has no choice. Just help your second brother. I hung up directly. Called a friend at State Children's Hospital Hematology Department to inquire. The friend checked. Recently there were no children named Montgomery admitted. No parent named Julian had consulted about leukemia treatment. Sure enough, it was a scam. They could even curse their own grandson's health. I completely gave up hope. I blocked all their contact methods, including those relatives who might be used by them. The world finally became completely quiet. I rested at Jessica's house for half a month. The wounds on my wrists healed. The wounds in my heart also formed a thick scab. Hardened, coldened. I re-rented an apartment, far from both my former company and my parents' home. Changed to a new phone number, only told Jessica and a few others. Started submitting resumes, looking for work. Because of the previous turmoil, job hunting wasn't smooth. Several interviews reached background check stages and then nothing. I knew someone must have said something, but I wasn't discouraged, kept looking. During this period, the court held hearings for Diane's case. I appeared in court as the victim. Diane cried heart-wrenchingly in court, saying she was momentarily confused, that she loved her daughter deeply, wanted to use this method to force me home. The judge didn't believe it. Finally, Diane was sentenced to 7 years in prison for illegal detention and attempted trafficking of women, combined punishment for multiple crimes. When the verdict was announced, Charles and my 2 brothers and sisters-in-law were all in the gallery. Their eyes glared at me like knives. I paid no attention. After the trial ended, I quickly left. Charles chased out, blocked me at the courthouse entrance. He had lost a lot of weight, his hair mostly grey. He did look rather pitiful, but I knew this was all appearance. Aria. He wept bitterly. Your mum got 7 years. 7 years. This family is really finished. Dad knows all the previous mistakes were Dad's fault. Dad was terrible. Dad doesn't ask for your forgiveness, just asks you to help your 2 brothers. They lost their jobs, have children to raise. Dad's old bones can't earn money. That 88,008, Dad doesn't want it, really doesn't want it. Could you lend some money to your brothers for emergencies? Dad will write an IOU, really. Dad will work like a slave to pay you back. He spoke with tears streaming, very humble. If it were before, I might have softened. But now, I looked at those shrewd calculations hidden in his cloudy eyes, only found it laughable. Dad, did you forget? I calmly reminded him. That 88,008 is what you owe me, court-ordered. It's not that you don't want it, it's that you should pay me back. As for lending money, I paused, looking at his suddenly frozen expression. Let them come ask me themselves. Write IOUs, clearly state interest and repayment dates. I can consider it. Charles's face instantly turned liver-colored. Are you trying to force us to death? You're the ones forcing me, I said coldly. From that child support cost list, you've been forcing me. Getting to this point today is your own doing. I stopped looking at him and walked toward a taxi by the roadside. Opened the car door and got in. Driver, let's go. The car started. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Charles still standing there, pointing at the taxi's direction, jumping and cursing something. My new rental apartment was on the 15th floor of a modern building. Had an elevator, good lighting, quiet, neighbors mostly young professionals who minded their own business. I was very satisfied, used my previous savings to pay 6 months' rent. The remaining money wouldn't last long, had to find work soon. Most resumes submitted sank without trace. Occasionally, a few interviews went well, but after background checks, nothing. I knew the reason. The influence of that farce was still there. Aria Montgomery, is that the one who sent her birth mother to prison? Might impact company image. Questionable family relationship handling ability. HR's polite rejections all meant the same thing. I didn't blame them. The workplace was like that. But I didn't give up. Continued submitting resumes daily, learning new skills. Life was simple and fulfilling. Away from that family's troublesome affairs, even sleep quality improved, until 1 month later I received an unexpected call. It was from my former company's direct supervisor, Johnson, a quite decent middle-aged man. "Little Aria, that family situation of yours is causing quite a stir." Johnson's voice sounded somewhat helpless. "I'm sorry to cause you trouble, Johnson," I apologized. "It's not really trouble, just..." Sigh. "Your parents came to the company today." My heart tightened. "They went to the company?" "Yeah, crying and making scenes in the lobby downstairs, saying you don't care for them, wanting the company to hand you over. Security couldn't make them leave, looked very bad." Johnson paused. "The leadership's meaning, you shouldn't come to the company recently, take leave, wait for things to blow over." I gripped my phone, nails dug into my palm. They actually made trouble at my company. "Johnson, I'm sorry, No need to apologize, I understand you." Johnson sighed. "You're not easy, kid, I know. Avoid the spotlight for now, we'll talk about work later." After hanging up, I looked out the window. The sky was overcast, as if about to rain. They were cutting off all my paths, forcing me to show myself, forcing me to compromise. The phone started vibrating again. This time, it was my mother Diane using another new number to make a video call request. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. I wanted to see what else they planned. The video connected. On screen were my parents, plus my 2 brothers and sisters-in-law. They were crammed in a shabby small room. It looked exactly like the destitute house I had seen online before. Diane faced the camera, crying until her eyes were red and swollen. "Aria, my daughter. Mum knows she was wrong. Mum is sorry. Look at what kind of life we're living now." She turned the camera, sweeping across the room. It really was broken and old. But I knew this definitely wasn't where they were currently living. My parents had an old house that, while not big, was definitely not this broken. This had to be a prop found somewhere. Charles also approached the camera, old tears flowing down. "Aria, Dad was wrong. Dad is not human. Dad shouldn't have calculated so clearly with you. Come back, Dad misses you." My older brother Marcus looked pained. "Little sister, I'm useless, incompetent, made you a laughingstock. Look how Mom and Dad are now, please forgive them." Second brother Julian held a sickly-looking little boy. "Little sister, look at your nephew, he's sick, no money to go to hospital." Second brother begs you, second brother was wrong before. Veronica and Celeste also wiped tears beside them, speaking softly. The whole family looked pitiful and miserable, as if I were the heinous criminal who drove them to desperation. If comments could be seen, they'd probably reverse again. I quietly watched them perform. My heart felt no waves. I even wanted to laugh. They acted so realistically. Too bad I knew their true nature. Diane saw I wasn't speaking and cried even harder. "Aria, are you really this heartless? Are you really going to watch your parents die in front of you? We don't want that 88,008 anymore, we don't want it, isn't that enough? Come back, we'll still be family, okay?" Charles followed. "Right, don't want it, Dad doesn't want that money anymore, you come back, Dad will cook delicious food for you." I looked at them, slowly spoke. "Are you finished performing?" The crying on the video side stopped abruptly. Everyone's expressions froze. What did you say?" Diane looked confused. "I said, are you finished performing?" I repeated. "Using broken houses found from who knows where to act pitiful, holding other people's children pretending to be sick, making trouble at my company, posting smear articles online, now group performing tragic plays." I laughed coldly. "You're not tired, but I'm tired of watching." Charles's face immediately changed. "Aria Montgomery, how dare you talk to your mother like that? We sincerely admit our mistakes, don't be ungrateful." Sure enough, they couldn't maintain the act. I directly exposed their tricks. Sincerely admitting mistakes. Fine then, first transfer that $88,008 to me. Once it's in my account, I'll immediately come back to see you. Diane screamed. $88,008, you're dreaming. That money was originally ours. See, I knew she was like this. Julian jumped angrily. Little sister, you've gone too far. Marcus looked disappointed. Veronica and Celeste also started pointing and cursing at me. The video was hung up amid chaos. The world became quiet again. I blocked this new number too, walked to the window, looking at the gentle drizzle outside. They had used every trick, exhausted all methods. What would be next? I had a bad feeling. They wouldn't give up just like this. Something even more vicious was probably still coming. I had to be more careful. The phone vibrated again. Not a call, but a text. From another brand new unknown number. "Aria, Dad is sick, very seriously. The doctor says it might just be these few days. Dad's last wish is to see you one more time, for the family to have one Thanksgiving dinner together. Please, Dad is begging you, come back." I looked at that text message. My heart felt like being gripped by an invisible hand. Sick? Very serious? Another new lie? But what if it was true? I stared at that text message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. I had learned my lesson. There would be no more midnight rescues, no more desperate pleas, no more manipulation disguised as family emergencies. Instead, I picked up my laptop and began typing. If they wanted to play the public opinion game, I would give them something real to consider. I wrote a detailed account of everything that had happened, from the initial expense report to the attempted trafficking. Every bank transfer, every broken promise, every lie was documented with timestamps and evidence. I published it on my personal blog with a simple title, "The True Cost of Family, When Love Becomes Transaction." Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. The comment section filled with messages of support from people who had experienced similar family dysfunction. Thank you for sharing your truth. Your courage gives me strength to set my own boundaries. Money can't buy real love, and real love doesn't demand payment. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Jessica with exciting news. "Aria, you won't believe this. A non-profit organization that helps abuse survivors saw your story. They want to offer you a position as a family advocacy coordinator." The interview went wonderfully. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful about the future. The work was meaningful, helping others who had faced similar situations navigate the complex emotions of family estrangement while protecting their own well-being. 6 months later, I received a final letter from Charles. No manipulation this time, just a simple note. "The house is being sold to pay debts. Your mother asks for nothing. We understand now." Enclosed was a cashier's check for $88,200, the exact amount the court had ordered. I deposited the check but felt no satisfaction. The money wasn't about winning anymore. It was about recognition that relationships based on transaction rather than genuine care inevitably crumble. I used part of the money to establish a small emergency fund for my nonprofit's clients, people who needed help escaping toxic family situations. The rest went toward a down payment on a modest house with a garden where I could finally plant roots that belonged only to me. Sometimes I wonder if they think about me during their holidays, if they miss having someone to extract from rather than someone to love. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. I've learned that family isn't defined by blood or obligation, but by mutual respect, genuine care, and the choice to support each other without keeping score. My real family consists of Jessica, my colleagues, and the survivors I work with who understand that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your worth beyond what you can provide them. I am finally, truly free.